Hi, everybody. This is Tom with Culture Chap. So, today I want to bring you a show called the Victorian Ladies Detective Collective. Isn't that a great title? Um, it's 1893, and the Fortescue sisters, Loveday and Valeria, are running a little boarding house for single ladies, mostly actresses, because Loveday had been a former actress. So, 1893 is very specific to this play. It's London, that's also very specific. And what do I say? It is sort of Sherlock Holmes meets Arsenic and Old Lace. A little bit, but it's much more than that. So they have a lodger, a young lady, a single lady, which is what they specialize in for their boarding house, Catherine Smalls. And she comes from America. And this play is very character driven. And it's only four people, these three ladies that become the detective collective, and then one man who plays three roles. And I think maybe to make it more interesting, he should play more roles, unnamed extras. Bear with me. So before we get into it, why I think this is because this play, like a lot of murder mystery type things, detective things, it only takes place in one room. So financially, it's good for your theater to have this. But if you can place any of the other scenes outside, it's very easy to do. Umbrellas, it's London, the sound of rain, walking in a different part of the set, different lighting could make it more interesting because as you read the play, you will think, well, this all detecting is fine, but it's sort of if these people come to their house. And you get a little like, what? Is that believable? Are we going to sustain this belief? Because the play for these women is a lot more action than just sitting around, making hypothesis and trying to figure it out. The man who plays the three different men is three different characters because it is former actresses and maybe a current actress in Catherine, the American. There's a theatrical producer, he comes by. There's also the butcher, he comes by. And then there's the cop who, of course, poo poos them and, oh, you're just ladies and you can't do anything and you're helpless and all that. And the play really does cover that. It very much is into character development and women at the time and ideas about them and how these women are different. Now, it's not sci fi, it's not crazy, they're not wackadoo women. They're fun, they're interesting. The murder is interesting. It's a serial killer. A little like Jack the Ripper, but not too much to distract you, which I think is great. Um, the serial killer, has gotten four people, and a fifth is seriously injured. Catherine, of course, is ripe for a target, you might say, for this serial killer. Um, the Catherine is amazing, the American, because she is a self defense aficionado, and she would kick your butt. She's amazing, and there's lots of like hysterical things with props. She has like a killer fan that can waste people, but she's also very Asian defense systems and so forth oriented. So she's very clever. She'd make a good spy. Um, Combined with Loveday, who clearly used to play all kinds of different parts on the stage, including men. And there's a fencing scene, which I think is fantastic. Very funny if you dress Loveday up in an old costume, maybe a Shakespearean set of pumpkin pants and boots and a men's shirt. Hilarious. Pumpkin pants, when taken out of context, are always a good, hilarious costume. Um, and then Katie, fighting in her dress, which probably would be accurate if someone was accosted on the street. This makes it all plausible and interesting, and I'm not quite sure what scenes you could set on the street. It just doesn't take much, and it does bring the interest way up if they could have some of these discussions as they're walking around the set. Not far, maybe with their umbrellas, maybe with the thunder sounds, maybe with the lights down low and them being suspicious of someone walking past. And that's when I think the man who plays the actor who plays three different men could be another sort of mystery character, buttoned up, so you don't see who it is. It doesn't matter who it is. It's just a stranger on the street. And then you send him one direction, and something happens, where they're suspicious of him. Maybe Catherine even does a little motion to freak him out. Funny. Um, why would you just do that to a stranger on the street? Is there a reason? Is him dressed as an extra male the way you dress him? Is it suspicious? Is him walking up to them suspicious? Interesting. Do you send him to one side of the stage as they're on their adventure on the street, and then you redress him in a different cloak, a different hat, a different something, and send him back the other direction? There's a lot of possibilities that can make this more interesting. Remember, a lot of the topics that you're discussing in these, let's say, drawing room comedies, where it's just the one set, they can be placed other areas. You don't have to add to the set. It's just the way you light it, and the room you leave, maybe in front of the set, that could be street. And how you lower the lights and what you do with your sound, and how you choose to have these other discussions with these characters. Are they on the street? Would that be interesting? Why are we doing that? Just to raise the level of interest. I would say that this is a very funny play, but it's also equally mysterious. And it is a lot about the women at the time. Remember, we're not quite at suffragettes just yet in 1893. But there are rumblings, and there should be. Each woman has her own reason for being in the collective, to be investigating. I know the Fortescue sisters are sisters, and Valeria talks about sisterhood, but it's more than just her sister. It's all women. And isn't that something that we should encourage and talk about? And explore different eras of what sisterhood meant to them. And that's interesting. Your casting can be anything you want. I often see Katie, the American, played as a black woman. I think this is fantastic and makes things much more interesting. But you should vary up your casting. So, who are the Fortescue sisters? What are they in society? What does it mean that Loveday was an actress? What does your research tell you about actresses at that time? That kind of thing. If your male actor can do different accents for the different characters, all the better. Remember, don't lean too hard. It's not his show. This is really a woman's show, and should be played as that. They're the more interesting characters, but they should all work together. They should be part of the same world, the same sort of universe. Costuming can be fantastic. Your set doesn't have to be outrageous. It doesn't have to be expensive. Placing some of those conversations in different places, I would say that. When you read the script, you may think that the ending comes a little conveniently and maybe a bit rushed, but you don't have to rush it when you direct this or when you produce this piece. Remember, you can do what you want. You can stretch it out. There can be a lot of silences. You can also make these characters be so good at what they do with their discovery of their investigation, which may be their first investigation, which they solved. The police didn't solve it. These women did. And I think it's funny and accurate, especially for the characters, because I think maybe they're getting kind of addicted to it. Especially Katie. She has a bit of glee in the whole gore of what's going on. Not creepy and weird, but just sort of like, I don't know how to describe it. She's not gross, but it's interesting. It's really interesting, which is interesting for us as the audience to see Victorian women have this reaction. But by the time they're all done, maybe they're all a bit more on the same page with their reasoning. And although there are no lines to do this, there are reactions you can do without lines to be like, oh, well, this is done. Maybe these characters recognize that it is a bit convenient and it is a bit rushed, the ending. And we get those reactions, and they want another case. They're happy it's solved, but it's London. There is more stuff out there happening. And how will they find that? Again, we have no lines for this. How can you do this? I mean, you can rush to the newspaper. Newspapers were still a thing then, and start scanning for other things and have murmurings. Remember, murmurings on stage and ad libs are not at this volume, they're murmurings. And your audience can lean in and go, oh, we are clear that they're looking for other cases because they're good at this. They're a good group. This is not Charlie's Angels in 1893. Don't think of it like that. Don't think of it as women using their feminine wiles to get information. It's not that. It's a lot of them figuring things out in a drawing room. Like I said, perhaps too much on the one locale. So if they're figuring things out on the move, walking on the street, that would be interesting. Is it a lot to have your actresses cross the stage several times? Yes, but with lighting and sound, you can make it more interesting, and I think that'd be good for your play. I'm going to attach some reviews, see what you think, and it might be good for your theater. Remember, Mystery Cell, and we don't have enough female detective plays. We don't have enough female detective stories out there. And there are a few that are becoming very popular on T, like Miss Scarlet on PBS. It's doing very well, and people love it. And remember, when we have modern day detectives, even if you consider Miss Marple a modern day detective, we like that. It sells and sells and sells. You know, Murder, She Wrote, NCIS, all those things, we like female detectives. That sells. So between the time period and the female detectives and pushing up against the limitations of women could do at the time, this could be fascinating for your audience. I'm sorry about my voice. It's autumn. There's still hay fever out there, but you don't mind. Okay, check this out. See what you think. All right. Thank you. Bye.